Hi, I'm Marshall Vandruff. In July 2023, I presented a 4-week story sprint for Project City in which students mined their lives for story ideas. This is a clip from the first session. If you'd like more, watch to the end or check the more info section for how to get the rest. Here we go. Everything we say now is documented for time and eternity. Really loosens you up, makes you feel like you can feel comfortable. This is a call and response thing that is specifically designed for you to have paper and tablet ready. You could be doing all sorts of other things today, and you're going to spend time with me in a story sprint. I think you'll find this worthwhile, assuming you've got a project, a main project, or even projects in front of you. The name of the project, the characters, any stuff that puts your project in front of your face to ideate on. Leave space for new ideas. If you just listen, you waste this. You may enjoy it, but this is about prompting ideas. It's like when you're around friends and one of them starts telling about their childhood vacation from hell, or their scrape with the law, or their crazy neighbors. It tends to draw out everybody else's memories of their childhood vacations from hell, and their scrapes with the law, and their crazy neighbors. We'll do that during this story sprint, especially with people. This is our first one. I'm calling it Mining Your Life for Story Material. It could be called Your Story Quarry. There's our blurb. If you want to develop original material for your story project, this introductory session helps you generate ideas inspired by people in your life. But it'll be a little more than that. You'll identify character traits that interest an audience, as well as imagine friends or family members as characters worth including in your story. So this will be somewhere between lessons and creative time, a bit like a guided meditation. Now look at those four categories. These four categories are as old as storytelling. All storytellers work with them. Great storytellers rock with them. The first three are about material. The final one is about how to present the material in an order that interests your audience and satisfies them. This is our quarry. Each one fills long books, but we're going to boil them down to a half hour each, half lessons, half ideating. And here's why we do this: to help you tap into your original ideas. Don Richardson, the great TV director and teacher, used to say, don't go looking in the mountains for what's right under your feet. We're going to spend time each week digging in your own backyard, gathering stuff out of your own attic, and exploiting your friends and families. Today, let's pretend that character comes first. It doesn't necessarily. We can make a case for any of these coming first in a story process. Each has obvious advantages and disadvantages. We shouldn't think that there's any one way that story crafting must be done. Just watch the masterclass trailers of great writers and filmmakers, and you'll hear the world's best contradicting each other. Real storytellers don't fit stereotypes. They surprise us. Now, I have to do this, and it will hurt your eyes, but I have to exit dark mode. I know that it's like going out of nighttime, so either turn your head away from your screen or whatever you need to do, because it is going to turn into daylight for the rest of this session.
Thanks for the warning.
Yeah, students have taught me to warn them for that. And if you would prefer that I do all the slides in dark mode, let me know. We could do a majority vote, and then next week I can present them so that instead of on a white background with black type, it's the other way around. Make sure
How
you've
about
got your
that?
paper or your tablet or whatever you use. This is where you begin putting your ideas down, your characters, and put 2 columns. At the left, people you know; at the right, characters in your story. And start over here on the right. List at least 3 characters in stories you are developing. There may be an advantage to just having one story over on the right. There's no advantage to limiting it to 3 characters. This is one of those things that if you put 12 characters on the right, it's all right. There's a sense of more is better. You won't overdo it with this exercise. by having a dozen of your characters over there. If you conveniently have pictures of them that it won't take you a long time to go collect, that could be nice too. We're going to make connections between what's going on at the left and what's going on at the right in advance. Let me tell you not to try too hard to fit these two sides together. You can do that later. This is only about listing possibilities, not about crafting your story. Less than a minute, we'll move on to a specific category. We will start with skill wizards. We'll make it into a question. Whose skill do you admire? Put their name there. Got to keep this short if you're doing it on a single piece of paper, but anyone you admire for their skill, and I'm sure you admire artists and storytellers, include them, because even if your story is about a feudal Japanese ninja, you may pick up character traits from your Project City teachers that would work well with your ninjas. However, be sure to include the other skill wizards that interest you. Excuse me, I better shut a door here lest the wind shut it for me.
So to confirm, we're compiling a list of skill wizards, not just putting one skill wizard.
A list, anyone that you admire. We're going to fill this whole left area here. I'm going to fill it with questions to get
Okay.
you thinking about people in your life. This includes from your childhood. Sometimes when things are distant, they take on a mythological power. People in your life who you've said, whoa, oh, oh, to be like that, that is great.
Do you have
I,
to know them personally?
no, you do not have to know them personally, but if you know them personally, there is an advantage to that. Remember, we're making lists and we're putting out options, and you use the censor that says, no, I'm not going to use that skill wizard. You use that censor later. Right now, it's just to put out the options and brainstorming. You put down everything that occurs to you. Figure, we're only supposed to be here for a half hour. We're 11 minutes in. I don't know how we're going to do this in a half hour. But you will have access to it on the recording, which you can pause it and spend 5 minutes on each of these if you like. It may be counterproductive to spend 5 minutes on each one of them. This is to go with your impulses. Consider skills other than arts, outside the arts, sometimes comparing one skill, some person you saw with a hammer and anvil when you were a child, made such an impression on you that it inspires ideas for things in your story that have nothing to do with hammers and anvils. But you remember the physical strength, the sweat, the sparks, the point of view from the child's eyes. Things like that are what you're seeking. Your personal mythology. Now, to encourage exaggeration, any skill that you could imagine as a superpower when you were a child, your parents had superpowers. Take a moment, Then I'll tell you about how a medical school teacher from 140 years ago prompted one of the most popular and enduring characters of all time. I'm not going to tell you yet who it is. I'll give you a chance to guess in a minute. But arguably the first superhero.
Sorry, but would you mind providing an example of what you mean by a skill that could be a superpower?
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. That's what I just mentioned.
Okay,
I will do that,
just
but
checking.
I'm
Thank you.
I'm letting it linger so that you can be imagining before I prompt with a specific example.
Hmm.
Have you Can you guess who I'm referring to though? Arguably the
Maybe
first
Sherlock
superhero.
Holmes?
Yes. Now think about this. I don't want to take 10 minutes on Sherlock Holmes. I'll let Thomas Shippey do the job. Uh, but Sherlock Holmes appeared in Victorian England at a time that crime was so out of control that the police were helpless to do it, and it needed someone who was not a cop, a little lower down the hierarchy, who could do better than the cops, not supernatural powers, but near supernatural powers. And here's why I mention him. The character of Sherlock Holmes came from a real person, John Bell, one of two teachers that Conan Doyle knew from medical school who were the first professionals. They were pioneers in forensic science. A 20-year-old man didn't return from a hunt, and they were the ones who figured out what happened. Conan Doyle created Sherlock Holmes very much in response to Dr. John Bell. And one other thing about Conan Doyle. Did you know that he was a medical student and he was a doctor? So it makes sense if he's going to create Dr. Watson, he knows what to write. He knows the language. He knows the professional attitudes. Now, what I'm prompting you to do is take people you admire for their skills. See if you admire them enough to where you can imagine them as superpowers. Let's keep going. Who do you envy? And we'll make a qualification. We shouldn't be putting too many limits on these, but let me put one limit on them. Not for what they have, but for what they can do. Because we're trying to aim this at skills. If you are so inspired right now to tune me out and listen to the recording later because you've got an idea that you're running with, great. Otherwise, keep the notes short. You can come back to them if they are seeds worth watering. Let's put it on you now. What personal best can you showcase? How many times have you heard in movies when they were casting an actor and they needed the actor to be a musician, and the actor is a musician? And it may be that the actor is a musician on a different instrument that was written. And they say, well, let's just change the instrument. Or the director finds out, as in Badlands, found out that Sissy Spacek had been a cheerleader and that she could do this incredible stuff with the baton. Wasn't written into the script. But why not? Why not make it so that she's adept with that? If you're writing a story and you're really good at something, wouldn't it make sense? This is a character you know. Let's not linger on it too long. What do you imagine doing marvelously? The point of this is, what if you aren't that good at it, but you fantasize about it a lot? Even if you can't do it with the skill you'd love to do it with, you can, in your imagination, for this story. Here's what this has been about. Imagine your skill wizards. I'll pause. because you are looking at your people. If there's any question about this now, this is the time to ask.
I feel like, well, this isn't really a question, but I'm just struck by the example you chose of Sherlock, not just for the reasons that you explained, but also because I feel like in the books he was constantly expressing how like anybody could do what I do. You just need to go about things in a methodical way, and I also thought that was really cool.
Oh yeah, but you're pointing to Sherlock Holmes, which could put us off on a tangent. Those Thomas Shippey lectures that I'm so excited about. I bought them primarily for the Sherlock Holmes lecture. All 24 lectures were great, and he put his finger right on what Sherlock Holmes, a primary appeal of Sherlock Holmes that I remember from the time I was a kid, is that he's like if you had an older sibling who's so smart that if you just hang around them long enough, you'll be that smart. Ideal characters like that. We
Hmm.
hope that by hanging around them in their stories, they'll rub off on us. Good observation. Okay, let's assume you're closing this list at the left. Now, look at your characters on the right. Are any of these people these characters? If you want more on mining your life, here are the 2 legal ways to get it. Go to my website, martialart.com, where you'll find the Story Sprints link, or subscribe at projectcity.tv. If you do that, you can stream this and a bunch of other instruction from industry professionals. I hope to teach you again. Thanks.